reacting to symptoms? How do we react to symptoms? I think this is such a good question. I want to first be very clear that symptoms and thoughts are two different things. So when we're thinking about responding to symptoms, sometimes it can get a little bit messy because, you know, what are our thoughts about the symptoms? What are the thoughts that are coming up around this? What are the emotions that are coming up around this? It can be hard to parse that out with like, what is my physical experience? What are the sensations, right? There's the sensations, and then there's all of the thoughts and the stories and the, secondary everything else about those sensations. So I think one of the first practices is to really learn to draw a line between those things, between this is my present moment physical experience, this is the sensations, and then this is what's happening in my mind, and cultivating that observer awareness that's able to be aware of your thoughts and aware of your sensations. Even if you're kind of getting swept into them, like being aware that that's happening. So if we set for now the thoughts and the emotions to the side and just think about sensations. People will often say, should I listen to the sensation? Is it a message from my body, or should I ignore it? All sensations are messages from your body or your nervous system, right? So that's easy. You don't have to try to figure that out anymore. The question is, what is this sensation trying to tell me? Because a lot of sensations are trying to tell us that's not safe, right? They're trying to tell us that we're doing something dangerous and we should stop. Pain is a really good example of this, because pain, the word pain, is not a true sensation. We all know what pain feels like, but just think about it. There are so many different types of pain. There's sharp pain, there's dull pain, there's stabbing pain, there's aching pain, there's the pain that you might feel in your head and the pain you might feel over there. There's a pain of like touching something hot or electric. And we interpret all those things as pain, but the sensations are completely different. Each of those sensations is its own thing, and it's our brain that assigns the label of pain to that sensation. And our brains will they can learn whether or not certain things are pain. And with chronic pain, they become more sensitized and are more likely to put the label of pain onto different sensations that maybe previously we would have been like, oh, that's like a weird stomach gurgle. And now it's like, oh, my stomach hurts. I'm getting a stomach cramp. So the pain is very real. I'm not saying that like we're not, that it's psychosomatic or we're making it up. It's just that our interpretation of the sensation as dangerous is what creates that experience of pain in many cases. So if you are putting your hand on something hot and you get that searing pain, it's telling you, get your hand away from there, and you immediately respond by doing that, right? If we're getting a pain maybe in our leg because we sprained our ankle or something, or like hurt our knee, then the pain is telling us it's dangerous to walk on this. It's still healing. It needs time. You need to rest it and not aggravate it further. So those are all really useful messages from our body. The problem is when our nervous system has become sensitized to danger, because we're running this survival biology, right? Our nervous system is in some kind of level of shutdown or sympathetic state. And so we're more likely to interpret sensations as pain because because we already are on the lookout for danger. We already think that we're in danger to some degree. So sensations that we experience are more likely to be concerning to us and to feel painful. So is the message that you're getting, this is dangerous, this isn't safe, we shouldn't be doing this? And the same can also be true for fatigue, because fatigue is the body's way of saying it's not safe to be up and about because you've got the flu and you need to rest and let your body and immune system have all of your energy to get rid of this virus, you know? Or in the case of sickness behavior, it's not safe for you to go and just be all around your community and spread this germ everywhere. You need to avoid people and avoid the bright lights and avoid the big sounds and go, you know, hide in your hut until you feel better and you're no longer contagious, right? These are very helpful evolutionary tools. But in our modern life, we get into this like very activated, go, 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 rush, 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 sympathetic or like overwhelm kind of shutdown state. And then we're more likely to have these types of danger reactions because we already think we're in danger. Okay, so if my body is telling me that I'm in danger with, you know, some kind of signal, is that appropriate to the situation? Is my hand on something hot? Is my knee actually sprained? Is there something trying to get me? Am I actively sick? So that's where I think orienting can be really helpful, because it taps into that neuroception of looking for threat and helps show us that, oh no, actually there's not a threat right here, right now that I need to respond to. So questioning, asking yourself, is this response appropriate? Maybe you're out for a walk and you start to feel sensations, or you're doing some kind of exercise, or you know, you come across some stairs that you have to climb up or something, and your body is telling you this isn't safe. I'm having these sensations. And then you have to ask, is that an appropriate response to this walk? Is walking safe? Yes, I think it is. Okay. Am I walking in a range that is appropriate for my body's current capacity? So, you know, if you've been bedbound or on the couch for months and months, you're not going to go out and do a big, steep, several mile hike. That wouldn't be appropriate, whether you have CFS or not, right? You would work up to that. So if your body's capacity has been severely limited, and it's not just your physical capacity here that I'm talking about, I'm also talking about your nervous system capacity, your capacity to interpret these activities as safe, then what would be appropriate, what would be safe for my body to do? Is this within the range of possibility? Is this within the range of a reasonable amount of activity? Maybe I don't walk every day and I have to walk, you know, a few blocks to get from my car to the doctor's office. Is that safe? Yes, it's just a few blocks. That's safe for, you know, 85% of people to do. So that's the next thing. Doing a reality check on the safety. And then if you determine that, yes, actually this is safe for me to do, then transmitting that message back to the body and back to the nervous system, because just knowing it in your head is usually not enough. We have to actually convince the nervous system and convince the body of that fact, which is where our regulating tools come in. Our somatic tools, especially, are really helpful with this. So you could do orienting, you could do some havening, you could hum, you could sing yourself a song, you could do a vagus nerve activation, you could do some deep breathing. There's like so many things that you could do. Tapping is another really good one. So the next question we want to ask is, what is my emotional state, and do I feel activated or do I feel shut down right now? Do I feel like I'm pushing? Do I have a sense of urgency with this task that I'm doing? Do I feel rushed and tense? Then you're in a nervous system state that is going to promote those messages of threat. And it's more likely to create more symptoms to stop you from doing the scary thing that you seem to insist on doing. Similarly, with shutdown, do I feel like everything is just so heavy and so hard and so impossible and I just can't? Then again, that's another threat state. So in particular, if you notice either of those things are happening, then that's a great time to stop and just really spend a little time with yourself and trying to get more regulation into your system and practice shifting into that safety state. Again, using any of those tools that I was just talking about. I don't think that going ahead with an activity in one of those states is going to be very beneficial. If it's at a degree where you can really notice it and be aware of it. Because we may be in kind of that low level state all the time and that's our normal, but if it's really like at a point where you can tell, yes, I'm feeling rushed, I'm feeling tense, or I'm feeling really shut down, then let's listen to that and try to find our way into a better, safer, more regulated, and by regulated in that case, I mean more of that parasympathetic and rest state. And then one other thing that I think it's also helpful to ask ourselves is, what is my pattern? What are my habits? Do I tend to push through everything and just do it, get it done? Or do I tend to immediately back off and run away from something that might have the tiniest hint of a symptom associated with it? Because both of those patterns are unhelpful in different ways. One will just keep you very stuck and the other one will also keep you very stuck. So they're both ways of staying stuck. But advice for one pattern might be different than advice for a different pattern, right? So if you're someone who tends to push, err on the side of pulling back. Leave the task half finished. Take the break. Step away. If you're someone that tends to run away from everything and you're afraid of like doing the tiniest expansion, then try to lean into a little more bravery and just trust your body a little more that maybe you'll have a few more symptoms, but you can handle it. So knowing yourself, I think, is helpful with that, because we want to challenge those patterns that can often get in the way of healing. So the way that we start to uncouple those danger signals from activities that actually are safe, that we know logically are safe, is by having a positive experience with those activities. So I go into this a lot in the expansion program, as a lot of you know. But if you're not having a positive experience, if you're in one of those survival states and you're feeling really stressed about it or tense about it, then you're not helping yourself to create more safety around that activity. So again, it's better to just not until you can be more peaceful about it, I guess. If you are at a point where you just have really intense symptoms all the time, regardless of doing anything, and it's just like super insanely stressful, then you start by just having a positive experience while having symptoms, which I think a lot of you have a lot of experience with, but this is something that I see often coming up in forums from folks kind of at the beginning of their mind-body journey, where they're like, but I have symptoms all the time, but I'm freaking out all the time. Like, the first step is just to create a positive experience or even a neutral experience while symptoms are present. So visualization is great for that. There are a lot of somatic practices, like you can do pendulation and titration. Other kinds of like breath sensing practices. There are a lot of different tools to do that. Meditation works for some people. Visualization is probably the easiest. Music can also be a good one. But just being able to hold in your brain a positive sensation, or I guess I should say a positive emotion, a positive emotional state, while also having these unpleasant physical sensations. So that's kind of, that would be the first step if you're not ready to expand yet, or if you're in like kind of a constant fear spiral situation. Let's see, what else do I want to say about that? So just bringing it back around to thoughts. Thoughts are not the same. We pretty much never have to listen to our thoughts if we don't want to. Like our body we want to listen to. It's sending us messages. Oh, good. Our thoughts tend to lie to us a lot. Our thoughts will perpetuate those fears and kind of get us into these like loops of confusion, or playing detective, or playing fix it, or a lot of different things. So it's a really good idea to start to notice your thoughts, to cultivate that observer within yourself that can notice, what is my brain doing? What are my thoughts doing? What are the thoughts that tend to come up for me a lot when I have these sensations, when these symptoms appear? What thoughts typically go with them, either before or after or during? What is kind of the mental milieu that these sensations exist within? And pretty much 99% of the time, thoughts, we can just retrain them, by which I mean doing something like noticing the thought and then flipping it around and saying the opposite, or just saying stop and taking a deep breath. This is where a lot of brain retraining programs will really focus, is the thoughts that come with sensations. And there's a lot of different tools out there for dealing with that. The one that I use a lot is just notice, either take a breath. I'll often do a physiological sigh, breathe in with a sniff and then breathe out. And maybe even like shake my head, or kind of, do some kind of like brushing away of that thought, and then choose what I want to think, or choose what I want to put my focus on. And you have to do that like literally over and over and over and over and over again. And for the really stubborn ones, I like faster EFT tapping, which is where you're just like tapping on these points instead of doing the whole big tapping round. And then as you do that, putting your focus on something else that requires all of your focus. So like counting something, or singing a song, or reciting a poem that you kind of remember, just anything that really pulls your brain away. And you can find that faster EFT in our resources folder. So if that's something you're not familiar with, I definitely would recommend that. For those thought patterns that are just really sticky, that really keep wanting to come back. But it does take a lot of practice. So those are kind of the main things, is the sensations versus the thoughts, and then is the danger sensation appropriate to my circumstance and what is my nervous system state currently, am I able to create a positive experience for myself using all of these myriad tools? Or, and if the answer to any of that is no, then go lay down, just step away from it, take a break. And we might find that, we're doing something and it's going great and everything's fine, and then sensations start to come up, and the question of like, is this safe, is this appropriate, the answer might be no. It might be that your sensations are saying, hey, this feels like the edge of what is safe and appropriate. And if that is true, that like, usually I can go for about half an hour of talking to someone, and now it's been about 30 minutes and I'm starting to have these sensations, then great. Yeah, that's absolutely spot on, that it's time to pull back. It doesn't mean that it's dangerous, but it does mean that it's not within your capacity yet. I guess is how I would differentiate that. And yeah, you do kind of have to learn your capacity, and sometimes tracking can be helpful with that, or just noticing like, hey, I had a 20-minute phone call and that felt fine. I had a 30-minute phone call and yeah, that was kind of so-so. And then I talked for an hour with somebody and oh man, that was not great. Then you know that like, okay, yeah, 30 minutes, that would probably be like around the time to set myself a reminder or take a step back.